class. Today we're working on a drawing dealing with complex forms and how to create depth and how to build various forms from scratch. And this is a little still life that I had set up, took a photograph of, and the reason I had to take a photograph of it rather than drawing from life right now is just because I'm doing this demonstration on my computer in a drawing program called Sketchbook Pro. And I don't have the capability or room on my desk to create this little still life and draw from it. So basically I'm going to move this photograph off to another screen, and I will be building this drawing right in front of you as best I can and in real time. I may find that I have to get quick and cut out some time, but we'll deal with that as we get to it. So off the screen it goes. And here we have a blank sheet of paper, or in this case it's actually a blank screen. I'm working on a Wacom Cintiq, spelled C-I-N-T-I-Q. You can look them up online. It's basically a screen that I can draw on with a stylus pen. So there are a couple ways to approach this, and one of them is to put in my horizon line, and that's a real simple line, but it gives me something to work with. I have a tacky glue dispenser bottle, which is a very round form. It's a cylinder for the basic approach, and what I'm going to do is put in the foot, because it's the closest item to me. It's the nearest item. It's down at the bottom of my screen. Let me erase those lines. I was just showing you where it is, but I'm going to put in a light line to determine the front. Now I know that the big cylinder, which is it's my carving mallet, is to the right of it, and it's a little further back, so I'm going to put in the foot for that. And where is the household oil can? Well, it's a step or so back further from the foot of the carving mallet, but it's on the other side of the bottle, so I'm going to put in the lead edge of that. Now, in space, there's a perspective that's going on, and if you know the idea of the railroad tracks converge as they go back in space, as do the various poles that are on the side of the tracks. They converge, they go back in space, yada yada yada. Well, that same thing's going on here, and every form that we're going to create eventually has to deal with perspective to be believable, because that's how we work in this three-dimensional world. Our eyes demand perspective. So I'm going to create a footprint from a square. There's my square. It's on the table. It's in perspective. There's another. This foot is basically going back like the train tracks would. You can see the direction of the perspective. It's basically one-point perspective I'm dealing with here. However, this footprint is for a odd-shaped can, so it's going to be a bigger square, and within that the can is going to live. So I'm going to put in the first vertical, sorry about the shaky hand, but I want to build this cylinder correct. It's the first ellipse. Now I could in fact build another rectangle up here, but I'm going to try to match that same ellipse. As you can see, this ellipse, they're both underneath of my horizon line. I think the one issue that I'm going to be dealing with here is, well, I think this this little square is just a tad too skinny. Let's widen that out. One thing I am going to be dealing with is this big mallet form is going to be, it's tapered, it's got bulging sides, but it's going to be above the horizon line. It's the only piece that goes above the horizon line. There's a bottom. There's another cylinder here, which is above. And even though this line here is the edge of the table, so to speak, my horizon line is actually higher. It's probably about here, and that's where my here's my table. Table is not necessarily the horizon line. And I want to find the center of my circle. Here's the center of my cylinder here. There's a center line here too. Doing the best I can here with my vertical line without having a straight edge. So, on either side of that center, I'm building out this complex handle now. It had a bulge here. Working with my contours. And here I go above the horizon line. Now what happens when I go above the horizon line? Well, the railroad tracks work in opposite. You see that? It's like a hat on top going into the background space. Whereas these are going, converging this way. It's the exact opposite as we get above the horizon line. They converge the other way. They converge from an outward splay into an inward splay, and anything going this way. As you can see, just building these arrows, you get a sense of depth. So my horizon line is probably dead center, and vanishing point, VP for vanishing point. Now this is all very rough, but this is how I build just about every drawing. I got to have my forms believable, so I have to be aware of these rules. And I'm going to throw in some heavy weight. See the heavy weight, my line weight right there where the form pinches in. It's a little lighter up top here. And I begin to erase a lot of my work lines because I don't need them anymore. Just hit them with my eraser, get rid of them. And remember the back end of that cylinder? We don't need that either. So I erase that. Now let me bring my drawing back over. Excuse me, my still life. I have to go off the screen here. We begin to see what's... Okay. There's that funny shape. You can see the handle, how it's built, how the angle... Excuse me, screen jumped because I'm using two input tools here. I'm using both my mouse with my right hand and my pen with my left. So you can see how this is... Get my pen. Don't need that big of a brush, so I'm going to shrink my brush down, and I'm going to go with black and white. You can see the box that this lives in has the converging arrow going in, whereas this can you see how they start to converge the opposite direction? All going back into space, about there. VP, vanishing point. This one, same thing. And as I build this up, this one lives in a little different shaped box because it is a rectangle within a square space. Mainly because I'm building this square is the edges, the limit of the edges. The limit of the edge forward towards me, the limit of the edge behind that, the limit of the edge left and right. So even though this one is diagonal in space over here on the left, it does have these same limits. It's still within the three-dimensional space. So that is how my drawing is built. You can see this as I lay these lines over top of the real world item, and then I move it off. Got to switch to my mouse and my right hand again to get that fully off the screen, and then here we are back in the drawing. So this complex item here is the nozzle for our glue bottle in the front edge here. And it breaks the edge. It's got a center line and a tip. Now get rid of those items that built it. All those background items that would be hidden, they go away. Alright, get rid of the background down below. And I can actually begin to get rid of the squares that I used to build this originally. They get erased. Okay, mess with the square in the back here. And the diagonal foot goes this way. And I've got a curve. Yeah, this would go for whiskey flasks and oil bottles, I guess. Again, it's got a little nozzle, but this is offset from center, so I have to kind of build this on its own. Got the rockabilly going in the background, keep my pace up. Notice, folks, I'm not worried about any of these items such as print. I'm ignoring, titles that say household oil and, tacky glue. Those are distractions at this point. They are doing nothing but getting in my way. I need to know what the real shape of the form is. And then I'll begin to do things such as, okay, it's a red and white can. Here's the line roughly here, and it goes around a turn. I'm reinforcing items such as the perspective and the contour. There's a vertical line here where the company has all the various uses that this oil is used for. They have little pictures of sewing machines and everything else. This gets erased. Right here's where it says household oil. I'm just going to fill that in black right now. Here's where the old label was for how much it cost, I think. So everything I'm putting in here reflects the perspective and the contours of this piece. Tacky glue. Okay, tacky glue, the actual title wraps around the form because it relies on these ellipses that are building the form. The print actually is subservient to those same ellipses. So where it says tacky glue, it's going to say tacky glue, but in an arc, in an ellipse. Same thing with more compound items up here. Now, I'm going to get over here to the right and work on our mallet. Now the mallet is made out of wood, and I'm not going to mess with the wood grain. What I am going to do is begin to use cross contour shading in order to build the handle forms. What I'm doing is actually being quite aware of the curvature of the piece and making my lines kind of ride on the curves of the actual form. Now, here's a line where the light is on the right, shadows on the left, and I'm going to actually make that my darkest region. And you notice I'm hatching, but the way that I'm hatching is I'm not, here's a hatch region. I'm hatching like this diagonally. However, here, right here, when I'm doing my cross hatching is just subtly a different angle. You see that? Subtly a different angle. I'm not going X's. There's a place for that. However, when I'm trying to build the shape and reinforce the contour, it's much more sophisticated to do just subtle hatches that all support the same angles. I think I had sent out a close-up of the American $1 bill with Washington's face way close up, and you can actually see the hatches building up Washington's face and how they follow every contour, every line of his nose. Those people that were doing the etching were just, you know, they're masters. However, the lines they used, every line reinforces the form below. Okay, let's get rid of my little directional arrows here. I want to treat the tabletop the same way that I'm treating the contours of each of these forms. So when it comes to the tabletop, it also is in space, and we have light coming in from, let me get rid of that. We have light coming in over here from the right, and just for shorthand, I'm going to throw a little sun here, and this is our light source. Doot, 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 doot. Okay, that's the sun, whether you knew it or not. So, light's coming in from the right, therefore, any kind of shadow is going to be cast to the left. Likewise on the front bottle. And all I'm doing is reinforcing that tabletop. I'm using the same sort of horizontal lines or diagonal lines everywhere. I'm not, just because this bottle's in front, I'm not starting to then, you know, go like this and go vertical here. Just, it makes no sense. The tabletop is one single form. So as that single form, it needs to be treated in a harmonious way wherever I hit it. All right, and I'm going to just quick give some Little hint that the pigment is different here because it's a red region on there. Okay, my little still life is coming together. And as far as background goes, I could get into it and really try to define this this background vertical wall here, but I'm not going to get crazy because this could fill up this drawing pretty quick, and we do have a YouTube time limit. So I'm just going to touch up here and there with my contour lines. Just touch them. Because this little bottle here is closest to me, I really could get crazy and put the darkest darks and the lightest lights. However, it would be a real exaggeration to create the atmospheric space, mainly because this is only a matter of 2 inches in the real world that they're away from each other, 3 inches over here, or excuse me, probably more like 5 or 6. However, you would not have an atmospheric situation in this case. If, however, I was to put my neighbor's car out the window, parked way over there on the horizon line, I would most likely have that treated much lighter, less darks, light handling, and the darkest thing here would be the tires, so I'd actually want them like a middle gray so that they go off in the background. And there's my neighbor's house, whatever. Even his roof, if it's black shingles, they would not be that dark. They would be light in the background, whereas all my darkest darks would be down here in this region. Anything back here in the background is going to be light grays. So just keep that in mind. Atmospheric light, not such a big deal with these small still lifes. It's a principle you got to know. However, when you're talking about a mere number of inches, the atmosphere is less of an intense item. So that is a rundown on building a short, small still life in space. The idea of creating a footprint first. Get the one. This is number 1 here. It's the lead edge item, so it's the first one I'm going to place, and then the next one in space, and then the one that's furthest away in space. Everything has a relationship to everything else. It becomes a believable space, and just because I'm using the rules, I'm building up in a systematic way, and I'm trying to be very aware of where everything lies in space in relationship to everything else. So that is it. Thank you very much.